What's going on, guys? Luke22SV here, back with a different video today. Today we're going to be ranking the 2019 F1 grid from best to worst. Now, the 2019 F1 grid has got a lot of great drivers, and there's no driver I can really pick and point that doesn't deserve to be in the F1 grid. And it's been like that for a couple of years, really. We've had a lot of good drivers and a lot of good talent finding their way to the grid. Obviously a lot of talent that's not making it onto the grid as well. But without further ado though, we're going to go into the best driver at the moment. We're going to go from best to worst. So as much as it pains for me to say this, Lewis Hamilton is the best driver in F1 at the moment, in my opinion. He's got 5 world titles now. He won in perhaps the second best car last year, although I'd have to say at different points they both had the best car, Ferrari and Mercedes. But Lewis Hamilton was on fire last year, very rarely making mistakes apart from Azerbaijan and other things like that as well. But Hamilton, the thing that he does well is he's able to pick up the pieces when other cars are falling away, and he is very good at keeping his head calm at certain situations as well. So Hamilton, all round at the moment, the best driver in F1, and well, who knows who can stop him in 2019. And we move on to our second best driver now, which is Sebastian Vettel. I want to put Vettel first, but I'm putting him second. Vettel, 4-time world champion. He's come close with Ferrari a couple times. 2017 he had the second best car and came very close. 2015 he had the second best car by a long way. It was a long way behind Mercedes. He managed to get 3 wins. He had a very good season in 2015. I think that's one of his most underrated seasons, potentially. And 2019 he's got Charles Leclerc as his teammate now. A very tough teammate, but he's been able to beat Raikkonen comfortably for the last few years. And well, he's just made a lot of mistakes last year, which is why I put him second. Let's see if he can iron out those mistakes and, well, still lead the Ferrari team in 2019 as well. But now, moving on to number 3, I've gone for Daniel Ricciardo as well. He's now moved to Renault. I think Daniel Ricciardo is the third best driver. I put him ahead of Verstappen. The reason why that is because I think he's a bit more consistent. He's a better race driver than Verstappen is. He's the best overtaker in F1, there's no doubt about that. Now at the Renault team, what can he do with Renault? Can they challenge the top 3? I would love to see Ricciardo and Hulkenberg do so well in the Renault team. But Ricciardo, he beat Vettel in 2014. He has been better than Kvyat, even though Kvyat outscored him. He's been better than Verstappen a lot of the time they've been teammates. The reason Verstappen outscored him this season was a lot of the time down to Ricciardo's retirement. But now moving on to number 4, I've gone for Max Verstappen. I'm not sure if it's a surprise if he's 4th, but Verstappen, 4th best driver in F1 at the moment. He was very good last season, I'll have to admit that. But he has had some erratic moments, particularly with at the start of the season with Vettel, Hamilton and Ricciardo as well. But towards the end of the season particularly, he was really in a league of his own. Mexican Grand Prix, he won that. Probably would have won the Brazilian Grand Prix if he didn't collide with Ocon. But Verstappen, can he maintain a title challenge this year? Who knows what the cars will be like. But if Red Bull can provide him with a good car, there's no reason why he can't challenge Vettel or Hamilton for a title. And now we move on to number 5, and it might be a surprise, but I've gone for Nico Hulkenberg to be the 5th best driver in F1 at the moment. And the reason why I say that is because I think Hulkenberg is really underrated. He beat Carlos Sainz last year by a mile. He's beaten Sergio Perez in one of the years they were together. He did lose to Perez twice when they were teammates. He completely annihilated Palmer when they were teammates. And he almost won the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2012. And he put the Sauber in places where it shouldn't have been in 2013 as well. And now with Renault, I think these wider cars suit him as well. Ever since 2017 has come along, Hulkenberg constantly being the best of the rest in most of the races, particularly in 2018. But best of the rest, Nico Hulkenberg. Watch out, if Renault can provide a good car this year, and I think he could be a tough match for Daniel Ricciardo as teammates. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I think Hulkenberg and Ricciardo will be a teammate to watch, because Hulkenberg is really good, I think. And now moving on to the 6th best driver, I've gone for Sergio Perez. He's quite high up there as well. Been very good at Force India in the recent years. A lot of people talk about how good Ocon is, but Perez has outscored him in the last couple of years as well. Outscoring Hulkenberg as well when they were teammates in 2015 and 2016. Getting 3 podiums in Sauber in 2012. Had that one bad year at McLaren. Had that gone well, who knows where he would be right now. But maybe it's a good thing that he got out of McLaren, because he's been in a team that have been doing rather well. But Racing Point team, I don't know how they're going to do this season. They have got better finances this year, I believe, but Force India, the team that they were slipping down the order a little bit last season. But what can Perez do? He's got several podiums for Force India. If he had a good car, who knows what he could be able to do in a good car. But I don't know if that will be happening this season. Now, moving on to 7th best driver, I've gone for Kimi Raikkonen. A couple of years ago, he would be higher up that list, but I think he's gone for 7th best at the moment. Raikkonen managed to get his first win in about, I think it was 9 years. First Ferrari win in 9 years, first win in 5 years since his Lotus win. But Raikkonen, he really could have done a lot better at Ferrari, and has been rather disappointing in his whole time at Ferrari, really, since he's returned there. But 2018 was probably a good year, probably his best Ferrari year. But I don't know. We'll see how he does at Alfa Romeo. He's got a young teammate in Giovinazzi, so you'd expect Raikkonen to lead that team. And who knows, if Alfa Romeo have got a good enough budget for this season, we could see Raikkonen up there once again with a team that he's leading. So of course, he was pretty much number 2 to Vettel at Ferrari. Now, moving on to number 8, we've gone for Charles Leclerc. After a fantastic debut season with the Sauber team, he's now found himself a move at Ferrari. And I could have put him higher, but I feel because he's only had one season, who knows how his second season could go. Because remember Perez, when he got his move to McLaren, everyone was saying how good he was, and then he obviously got destroyed by Button. But Charles Leclerc, he's a fantastic driver. He did very well in Sauber, and he completely blitzed Formula 2, completely blitzed GP3. What can he do in Formula 1 now that he's got a top seat? Is he going to be a threat to Vettel? Is he going to be able to knock Vettel out of that number 1 perch at Ferrari? Is he going to be able to lead that team? Who knows what will happen this season? I think Charles Leclerc will be very close to Vettel, a lot closer than Raikkonen will be. So Vettel's got to really push hard if he wants to stay a number 1 driver at Ferrari, because Leclerc is very much a future world champion. Now, our 9th best driver, I've gone for Valtteri Bottas. I don't know about Valtteri Bottas. He's a good driver. He proved that at Williams. He's proved that he's a good driver at Mercedes. He's managed to get a few poles and a few wins. But when your teammate is Lewis Hamilton, you're always going to be outshone, unless you're Jenson Button or Fernando Alonso. But Bottas rather, I should say, I don't know. He didn't win last season. He had to get out of the way for Hamilton a few times. And I'm really not sure about Valtteri Bottas. He doesn't look that confident as he used to be. And I think the same way Raikkonen has got out of Ferrari now, I think Bottas needs to find himself another move, potentially next season, to a different team where he will be potentially a lead driver or an equal driver, where he can start to express himself and perhaps move up the order a bit more. But now, moving on to our 10th best driver, I've gone for Kevin Magnussen. I think he had a fantastic season for Haas last year. A bit erratic at times, but he's very aggressive, and that's what you like about a driver. He's very good, and I think he's a very good driver. But he's had a podium in his first ever race with McLaren. Better driver for Haas in the last couple of years. Don't know what he could achieve next season. He's still fairly young, but if Haas can provide a good car, who knows where he could be. I just don't know whether he will be able to make a move to a top team one day. He's just, I don't know. He's still a very solid driver, and for that reason I put him P10. Now moving to P11, I've gone for Pierre Gasly. I'm not really sure about Pierre Gasly. I'm not convinced. He had a good season at Toro Rosso, a couple of good races here and there, but he wasn't that much better than Brendan Hartley at times. I think Brendan Hartley was quite close to him, but we'll see what Gasly can do in a Red Bull. alongside Max Verstappen, that's going to be a tough teammates. The two youngest teammates on the grid. So we'll see how that goes at Red Bull. They've got quite a young lineup, but Gasly, he done very well at his first season at Toro Rosso. I'm just not convinced that he's as good enough for a Red Bull seat yet. And now moving on to Carlos Sainz, who's our 12th best driver. Again, I'm not too convinced about Carlos Sainz. There was a lot of hype about him, but he's never beaten a teammate apart from Danny Kvyat. But he struggled to get, well, Verstappen, it was always very hard to beat Max Verstappen, but I'm just not, he struggled against Hulkenberg. A lot of people thought that young Red Bull driver going to Renault, he'd be quite solid, but again, he was very much outshone by Nico Hulkenberg last year. And now moving to McLaren, where he will be probably the team leader to start off with, is a very big opportunity for Carlos Sainz to show what he's actually got. But again, I'm not really convinced that he's quality enough for a top seat. He was beaten by Nico Hulkenberg quite convincingly last year, but he is a very solid driver and still very young, so he's still got a lot to prove. Now we move on to our 13th driver, which is Romain Grosjean. Now he had a very erratic season last year, particularly at the start, but Romain Grosjean, I don't know, he's a very solid driver on his day, but he's getting a bit older now, and I think maybe at the end of this year, if he doesn't do well, we could see him off the grid at the end of next season. But that is just a personal feeling. I think Grosjean might be gone at the end of the season if he does not have a good season. Pietro Fittipaldi, the Brazilian driver, of course, grandson, I think, of not Enzo Fittipaldi, Emerson Fittipaldi. But I don't know, Grosjean, I don't think he's going to be going anywhere in F1 anytime soon. So we'll move on to number 14, and that is going to be Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll, there's a lot of people that don't really like Lance Stroll too much, because they think he's a pay driver, and you know, he did pay his way into F1. He's not really been too great, but again, he's still young. He's done quite well. He's managed to get a podium. He deserved that podium. He managed to finish there, but he's now at the Racing Point team, a slightly better team than Williams were last year, you'd imagine. He wasn't too much better than Sergei Sorokin though, so we don't know. He's still young, so we have to give Stroll a couple of seasons, I think, to show what he's got in a slightly better team than the Williams team. Now, moving on to 15, we've got Danny Kvyat making his return to the F1 grid this year. This move surprised me a lot. I did not expect Danny Kvyat to be coming back to F1, especially to Toro Rosso, after the way he just got kicked out of there. Personally, I don't think he should have been in the Red Bull seat in 2015. I thought John-Eric Verne should have got that seat, and I can completely see why they dropped him for Verstappen at the end of that season. Well, at the start of next season. After that, though, he just completely lost his confidence, and I was surprised that he kept the seat at the end of 2016, let alone got into 2017. Lost his seat in 2017 halfway through it after a load of incidents. I just don't know what he's going to be able to do this season. Whether he's improved, whether he's a different man, we'll see. But that brings me on to number 16, and that is going to be Robert Kubica, returning to the F1 grid after such a long time out, 9 years with that arm incident in rally. I don't know what we expect from Robert Kubica. Obviously a very good talent he was back in F1, putting that Renault in the podium and so far up the grid in 2010. Obviously winning BMW Sauber's only win. I don't know what he's going to do this year. We have to wait and see, I guess. This is why at the end of the year I'll probably do another video with the same 20 drivers, and we'll see how different the order is come the end of the season. At the moment, Kubica unproven, he's pretty much a rookie, so we're going to have to put him in P16 because we just don't know where he's going to be. Obviously, he's warranted his way onto the grid again, but I just don't know what he's going to be like this season, whether that arm is going to cause him any problems. Now, moving on to 17th, I've got Antonio Giovinazzi. Obviously, he's had a couple of races in F1 before, but now he's moving to the Alfa Romeo team alongside Kimi Raikkonen. I think this Sauber team, this Alfa Romeo team, has got a very good lineup in Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen. Giovinazzi was very close to the F2 title alongside Pierre Gasly in 2016. Had a couple good races in 2017. Well, I should say one good race with Australia. He did quite well, but China was a nightmare race for him. Had a lot of testing with the Haas and Sauber team. Since then, I think Giovinazzi is a quality driver. It's nice to have an Italian driver back on the grid, but we'll see how he goes this season. He's got Raikkonen as his teammate. Who knows how that will go. But now we've got George Russell, Lando Norris and Alex Albon, 18th, 19th and 20th respectively. We don't know how they'll be. They're 3 new rookies coming onto the grid. Russell with the Williams team. We don't know how that'll be. He might be at the back of the grid. He's got Kubica as his reference. Lando Norris has got Sainz as his reference, and Albon's got Kvyat as his reference. They'll all be very inexperienced. Norris has had a bit of experience with the car. Russell's had a couple years experience with Force India and now Williams. Albon's not even driven an F1 car until Toro Rosso launched their car the other day. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited to see how Russell, Norris and Albon will get along. 2 new young Brits, something to be really excited about in Formula 1. But they're unproven at the moment, which is why I put them 18th, 19th and 20th. So we'll see how they get along in F1. Now, Russell was the F2 champion last season. He won it quite convincingly in the end, I think. But Norris won Formula 3, I think. Albon, I don't know what he's won, but he was very close to the F2 title last season, and has, of course, warranted his place in Formula 1. Now, that is going to be the end of the episode there. Top 20 drivers at the start of the season. We'll do it at the end of the season, top 20 drivers at the end of the season. Wonder how different it will be. We'll find out, but thank you everyone for watching. That's going to be the end of the episode there. Mick Schumacher career mode will be hitting Canada tomorrow. So thank you everyone, and I'll see you soon.